My boyfriend broke up with me. Over a towel. Yes, you heard that right. A towel. And the only thought running through my head was, wait, so the years I paid rent, covered the bills, and even bought diapers for the cat he adopted and forgot about don't count for anything? I never imagined that after all those years of support, the thing that would kill our relationship was me not folding a towel to 5-star hotel standards. Want to know how messy the drama got after that? Sit down. I'll spill it all. But promise me one thing. Don't laugh too hard if you've ever been me. If there were a college major called full-time boyfriend support, I'd have graduated with honors, plus a certificate for patience. I met Troy during my senior year of college, back when he was still the guy who carried a ukulele everywhere and believed he was born to inspire the world. Me? I didn't carry an instrument, but I did carry the bills for both of us on my shoulders. At the time, I had just started an internship at a health tech startup, the kind of job where the work piles up, the pay is peanuts, and the deadlines hit like tidal waves. Still, I loved it. Maybe because I'm the type who gets excited about planning, order, and structure. Troy, on the other hand, not so much. Troy liked to go with the flow. From the moment we started dating, I knew I was in love with an artist. What I didn't realize was, loving an artist also meant becoming the unpaid sponsor of every short-lived dream. I mean, has anyone here ever lived with someone trying to launch their own podcast called Troy Talks Tough Truths? Every night, I'd come home to find him in the middle of the living room, speaking into a mic with his deep, soulful voice. Love yourself, even if you're just a broken cookie. I loved the message, I really did. But I also wish the $250 mic hadn't been top shelf, and that the cookie could pay its own damn electric bill. After the podcast phase came the handmade candle phase. Oakwood and self-respect. His words, not mine. I smelled one once, and it was like a Christmas tree being set on fire with a menthol cigarette, but I still supported him. I even chipped in money for the label printing. Then came the online bartending course. I still have a picture of Troy standing in the kitchen, wearing an apron, holding a shaker, messing up the ratios 4 times in a row, and finally producing a margarita that was as salty as my tears when I checked my bank account. Every time Troy switched directions, I told myself, this time, it'll work out. And I meant it, because I thought, if I don't believe in my boyfriend, then who else will? My friend Gina once said, you're not dating a man, you're raising a Tamagotchi on hard mode. I laughed at the time, but looking back, she was right. Every time Troy launched a new passion project, I was the one installing, maintaining, and paying the monthly subscription fees. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Austin, Texas. 1 room to sleep, 1 room for Troy to develop his passions. I covered everything: rent, internet, gas, electricity, water, groceries, Netflix, even the scented candles for Troy's little recording studio. You know, the for the ambiance kind, not even practical ones. Some months, I even had to pay for pastel backdrops to match the branding. Branding for who exactly? Troy had a car, courtesy of his parents. But the gas money? Still me. One time I joked, think I could claim you as a dependent on my taxes. Troy laughed out loud. I laughed too. But honestly, it stung. I know what you're thinking. Why would she put up with this? Trust me, I asked myself that same question hundreds of times. And every time, I'd find a new reason to stay. He's trying, or I just need to be a little more patient, or the worst one, not everyone succeeds on their first try. I remember once I even posted anonymously on Reddit, something like, I'm covering every expense in this relationship while my boyfriend changes passions like socks. Am I dumb? And the top comment was, not dumb, just dangerously optimistic. Girl, run. I laughed when I read it, but I didn't run. Because at the time, I still believed. I'm different. I understand him. Now I'm not so sure. Some nights I'd stare at Troy's phone bill. Yes, I paid for that too. And think, if this were a game show, I'd be standing in the final round. But what exactly is the prize supposed to be? I mean, I know long-term relationships go through rough patches. But I never expected ours to start with Troy, meditating in the middle of the living room to remixed Indian music, and end with a towel folded the wrong way. I'm not kidding. After nearly 5 years of living together, one morning Troy suddenly started calling breakfast energy meditation hour, lunch, information detox time. And of course, every time I came home, I'd catch him on TikTok watching those self-help guys in white button-downs saying things like, don't chase, attract. Or your partner is a mirror, not a project. At first, I thought he was just writing content for a new podcast, but nope, this was his healing journey. Nobody was injured, but he was dead set on healing anyway. Then he started avoiding me. Like, really avoiding me. No more, "Did you eat yet?" Instead, it was, "I need some space to reconnect with myself." One night I came home, turned on the living room light, and there was Troy, sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of a mirror with a candle labeled Wildwood Essence. I asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "Eye contact with my purest self." Me, "Okay, well, have fun, both of you." I tried not to overthink it. Maybe it was stress, maybe it was just a phase he had to go through. But then, the fateful day came. Friday night, I came home from work and found Troy sitting at the dining table. The warm light hitting his face like he was about to be interviewed in some documentary called The Truth Revealed. I hadn't even taken off my coat when he said, "I think we should break up." I froze. The only thing in my head was, "What?" I laughed. I honestly thought he was joking. I was waiting for the punchline like one of those prank videos. But no, his face was even more serious than the time he got rejected for a collab by a therapy cat on Instagram. So I asked, "Are you serious?" And then Troy just unloaded. "I feel like you're no longer contributing to the energetic balance of this living space. You don't fold the towels the right way. You place your shoes facing the wrong direction. And I'm always the one regulating the emotions in this house." I looked at him like he'd just told me he was possessed by some ghost named Toxic Energy Marie Kondo. Wrong towel fold? Misaligned energy? I work 10 hours a day in marketing, come home to cook, clean, cover every single bill from A to Z, and the issue is the towel? So I asked again, "You mean you're breaking up with me because I don't fold towels like a 5-star hotel?" He nodded like I had just confirmed some universal truth for him. I once had a friend tell me her husband wanted a divorce because she stored her toothbrush facing the wrong window energy direction. Back then I thought, oh my God, who's that ridiculous? Now I know. There really is a species like that. But that wasn't all. Troy went on, "I think it's best if you move back in with your mom for a few months. Give us both time to re-establish our own frequencies." And then came the final blow. "This apartment, I'll keep it. Because it's really resonating with my creative flow." I swear I heard an actual ping in my head, like someone had just rung a bell inside my brain. This apartment, the one under my name, rent paid by me, maintenance fees covered by me, and now he was basically kicking me out so he could protect his creative flow? I didn't react right away. I sat down and just looked at him for a long time. And I thought about that Reddit post I once read. You'll know it's time to break up when your partner starts talking like an energy guru, while not paying a single dime for the gas bill. For the first time in 5 years, I realized there was nothing left worth fighting for. What do you think? If your partner told you to move out of your own place so they could align their energy, how would you handle it? I had my way of dealing with it. But I'm curious, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. After that whole energy cleansing / TikTok style breakup, I honestly thought Troy would pack his bags and disappear quietly. But nope. Not only did he stay, he slid right into the role of head of the household, like I was some Airbnb guest whose checkout time had expired. The next day I caught him scribbling things on the whiteboard we had hanging on the wall. I glanced over and the first line said, "Living room energy makeover. Theme, walnut brown plus moss green." Then, adopt a Sphinx cat, creates a minimal yet edgy vibe. And of course a note, boost masculine energy, avoid sharp corners, place amethyst at the doorway. I'd barely taken half a sip of water before wanting to spit it out just to wash away all those floating spiritual decor ideas in the air. Did he think he was at Goop headquarters? Or starring in some Netflix home makeover show? One day, I caught him taking photos of the entire living room layout, then sitting with his iPad, sketching over it with new decor concepts. Abstract art, a beige sofa, throw pillows with quotes like, "Live, laugh, love," but in Gothic font. When I casually asked, "So, what exactly are you planning to do with that drawing?" he answered completely straight-faced, "It's to prepare for the next chapter of this apartment. You should probably start looking for a new place to live." I swear, if someone else had overheard that sentence, they'd think he just won some property settlement after a divorce. The problem is, we were never married, and he had never paid a single dime toward this apartment. This apartment, it was an inheritance from my aunt. She was the coolest single woman I've ever known. She bought it back in 1998, planted the balcony garden with her own hands, painted every door herself, and kept everything spotless, like the soul of a child. When she passed, she left it to me with one condition. Don't let anyone freeload here for more than 6 months if they don't pay. Auntie, I'm sorry. I let one freeload for 5.5 years. All the documents, the deed, the lease, the utility bills, are in my name. Troy never really asked about it, or if he did, he never listened to the answer. I think he just assumed it was a rental. And in his mind, when you break up in a rental, whoever leaves first loses. Well, let's see who really loses. I didn't react right away. I didn't jump up and call him out either. I just sat there, watching, waiting for him to dig that hole as deep as possible. Meanwhile, I started quietly reclaiming control of everything in the smart home. Wi-Fi, lights, cameras, door locks. One time, I switched the lights from relax mode to party mode right in the middle of his meditation. The lights started flashing red and green, and he yelled, "What the hell is going on?" I just shrugged. Maybe the energy's unstable. I also booked a professional cleaning service, scheduled for next Tuesday. Coincidentally, that happens to be his birthday. I even left a note with the service. Focus on areas where male energy tends to stagnate. Studio, desk, kitchen, possible trace of fake amethyst. And I returned the spare keys to the building concierge. Made it clear I'm the only one authorized to approve guests. Troy didn't know yet, but he would. I wasn't angry, I wasn't upset, I just felt strangely calm. Like when you take a step back from a painting, see the whole picture, and suddenly realize exactly which part needs to be erased. I started sleeping better. Maybe because I knew the countdown had already begun. And you know what? Waiting for someone to fall into their own trap? It doesn't feel cruel, it feels sacred. After a few days of declaring himself master of the apartment, Troy decided to kick off his next chapter by bringing his new girlfriend over to meet me. In my house, with me there. Basically a meet-the-host situation, except he forgot he was the guest. That afternoon, I came home from work and found Troy standing at the door in a white button-down, hair slicked back, grinning like he was about to pitch on Shark Tank. Next to him was a blonde girl in a floral dress, carrying a bottle of rosé and a picnic basket. Before I could even say anything, she beamed at me. "Hi, Troy's told me so much about you. I'm Bree." I thought, well, okay. At least she's polite. But before I could even process the shock, Troy went on. "Tonight, I thought we'd do a little barbecue. Change up the vibe. Bree wanted to see the apartment we live in together." The apartment we live in together. I froze. And to keep myself from collapsing on the floor from lack of oxygen, I stepped back and poured myself a glass of water. Not because I was thirsty, but because I needed something to hold. Otherwise, my hands would have curled into fists on reflex. They started their little tour, Troy leading the way, Bree following behind, and me standing in the kitchen, basically an extra in the background of this play called Creative Prince Charming and His Muse from the Yoga Retreat. Troy narrated like he was hosting a home makeover show. "This is the corner where I usually write podcast content. I'm working on a new concept, the journey of inner connection through grilling. This kitchen runs on gas, but I'm thinking of switching to induction, more modern, cleaner, keeps the energy better. And the bedroom, we're planning to change the tone to olive green, softer, healing, kind of like a high-end Airbnb." I swear if he had said one more line, I would have signed him up for an audition to star in an organic floor cleaner commercial. "And Bree?" She was all oh and ah and nodding along like she'd just stepped into a Pinterest board version of her new life. I don't even blame her. I used to believe the same thing. I used to think I was part of this journey of building a future. The difference is, I've got the receipts to prove it. After the tour, they went out to the balcony to prep for the barbecue. Troy pulled out the mini grill, the one I bought him 2 years ago for our 1-month podcast anniversary. From the kitchen, I watched through the glass door as Bree tied on an apron that said "Grill Queen," while Troy chopped vegetables like a wannabe master chef in training. So what do you think? Should I have walked out there and dropped a line like, "Here's your twist, sweetheart, I'm the landlord"? Or maybe yelled, "Cut, that's a wrap, you two are overacting." I considered every option. But in the end, I chose something else, silence and observation. I noted everything. The way Troy slid his arm around Bree while leading her into my former room, the way he said "we" with the same familiar tone he once used with me, the way Bree innocently asked, "Can we hang string lights here, babe?" And Troy nodded like he was already booking contractors for next week. My friend Gina once told me, if you really want to hurt someone, don't slap them. Just let them trip face first into their own fantasy. And I could see Troy sprinting headfirst toward exactly that. At the end of the night, after they'd cleaned up and Bree had left, Troy walked into the living room where I was sitting. His voice was calm, almost polite, but detached. "I think it's best if you start packing your things. Bree's moving in 2 weeks from now. We need to realign the energy of this space." When he said that, I almost burst out laughing. 2 weeks? My ex-boyfriend/unofficial squatter, was granting me the grace of 2 weeks to move out of my own apartment? I didn't answer. I just lifted my head, looked him straight in the eye and smiled. Not the kind of smile that says, "Yeah, you're right," but the kind that says, "Oh honey, just wait." So let me ask you, if it were you, being kicked out of your own place by someone who's never paid a single gas bill, what would you do? Drop it in the comments. I'm collecting ideas for a farewell party. I gave Troy exactly 2 weeks, the same spiritual deadline he thought he was giving me. The only difference was, I didn't say it out loud. I just acted. That morning, while Troy went out early to go meditate in nature, which in reality meant grabbing a Starbucks iced matcha latte, I got dressed, called a locksmith, and booked a same-day moving service. The locksmith showed up at 7:40 a.m. on the dot. The movers arrived at 8:15, with clear instructions from me: only take personal belongings, leave the delusions behind. I labeled every box, suitcase, and tote bag Troy used to store his so-called high-energy items. Destination: his mom's house. The very place he once claimed he could never return to because he was too grown to live with family. Well, grown-up time starts now. By 9:30 a.m., everything was done. I sat down on the sofa, the same one Troy had once planned to replace with some minimalist Korean-style seating, and poured myself a glass of cold water. Not to quench my thirst, but to get ready for the show. 11:02 a.m., Troy walked back in. I heard footsteps in the hallway, then the sound of him trying the lock. Once, twice, 3 times. Then came the knocking. Not angry, but that casual rhythm, like I was his roommate who forgot to unlock the door, instead of the actual homeowner who had just evicted her ex. I opened the door. Troy's face looked warped, like one of those distorted frames from a low-angle security camera. I smiled, my voice soft as air. "Good morning. Oh, and by the way, trying to enter an apartment that doesn't belong to you? That's considered trespassing." I'd never seen someone look both shocked and embarrassed while still trying to keep a straight face. Troy just stood there, stammering things like, "What are you doing? This is our home," before switching into pleading mode. "We had something really beautiful, Jade. Can't we just talk about this?" I nodded to acknowledge, yes, we once had something. Just like people once had hair before deciding to shave it all off to reset their energy. Bree showed up about 10 minutes later. I figured Troy had sent her an SOS text. She was in a flowy maxi dress, carrying a tote bag that said, "Live, laugh, love," looking all excited like she was about to shoot some balcony couple goals photo. But when I opened the door, she froze. I can still remember the way her eyes darted from me to Troy, then back to the door, the one I had just locked behind me. "Wait, this isn't his place?" she asked, voice so small it sounded like she was begging me to say yes. I shook my head, smiled softly. "No, honey, this is my place, 100%. The deed, the lease, the Wi-Fi bill, even the Amazon Prime subscription, all in my name." I don't hate Bree. She's just the next in a long line of people who believe Troy is on a self-improvement journey. But I did enjoy watching her look at Troy like she was realizing for the first time, oh, so the prince on a white horse just borrowed the horse from a gas station. Bree didn't say another word. She just turned around. Her heels clicking on the hallway floor sounded like the closing credits music of a failed sitcom. Troy turned to me, flustered. "Are you really kicking me out?" I shrugged. "Let's call it a reallocation of household energy, to the right person, in the right place." I had never seen anyone look so furious and helpless at the same time, his eyes darting around like a glitching robot. Then he launched into this speech about emotional wounds and silent betrayal, before crying. Not sobbing, but those single dramatic drops, like each tear was the opening line of a new chapter in his self-healing journey. I didn't budge, but I did throw in one sharp little warning. "You know, if I wanted to, I could call the cops and report you for trespassing. But I'm being nice, I just changed the locks." He stammered. You wouldn't actually do that, right?" I stayed silent, but my eyes made it very clear. "Don't test me." And there he was, standing in the hallway with no suitcase, no Bree, no old keys. Just a hoodie that read Creative Energy, the same one I bought him back in our second year together. I didn't feel triumphant, I just felt lighter. Like I'd finally deleted some useless background app that had been draining my battery for years. Have you ever had a remove your ex from your life moment that's satisfying? If yes, tell me about it. And if not, take this story as a gift, along with my advice. Always keep property in your name. I thought everything would end with that polite eviction and a gentle legal warning. But no. Troy, like some cosmic cockroach of drama, refused to disappear. Less than a week later, I got a text from Caleb, a mutual friend. The message had only one line. You know, Troy's been telling people that apartment is co-owned, right? I didn't know whether to laugh or apologize to the universe for ever dating this self-appointed CEO of delusion. Caleb told me Troy had been going around claiming I swapped the paperwork, plotted a betrayal, and stole ownership of the apartment after he invested all his money, effort, emotions, and personal feng shui into it. Personal feng shui? You mean the handful of crystals he left on the windowsill? But it didn't stop there. One night, a friend sent me a link to a GoFundMe page. The campaign title, "Help Me Reclaim My Sacred Space." The cover photo, a blurry cropped shot of me from a 2021 Instagram post, hair greasy from a jog that day. And in the description, Troy had written, "I am the victim of a years-long romantic scam. I contributed to building this apartment, both physically and spiritually. Now I've been cast out onto the streets. I need the community's help to fight for justice." I nearly fell out of my chair laughing. Contributed financially? This from the guy who didn't even know what Wi-Fi plan we were on? The same guy who thought the electric bill just auto-debited from the universe? I checked the fundraiser total. A whopping $65, and $60 of that came from my sister Zoe. I was about to call and demand answers when her text came through first. "Don't freak out. I know what I'm doing." Turns out, Zoe, the finance brain of the family, had made a conditional investment. She messaged Troy, pretended to be sympathetic, then agreed to help if he signed a loan agreement with real interest rates and collateralized his car. That 2010 Corolla that used to scream like a blender every time he hit the gas. Troy, thinking he'd found an ally, signed without reading a thing. And now my sister not only holds his debt, but also has the perfect excuse to post every overdue payment update on Instagram with captions like, "Investing is the art of patience," or "the art of repossession." I swear if my life were a movie, Zoe would be the scene-stealing side character everyone roots for. And then came the cherry on top. Troy's mom, the same woman who once said she didn't want to interfere in grown-up matters, finally called me. Her voice was tired, but clear. "I don't even recognize my son anymore. He's out there spinning a story like he's the perfect victim." I stayed quiet. She went on, "I used to think people exaggerated, but now I see my son doesn't need anyone to expose him. He's perfectly capable of doing that himself." She told me Troy had even been trying to borrow money from relatives to hire a lawyer to reclaim his spiritual ownership. And when someone asked him what spiritual ownership even meant, he said, "It's like being an artist. You might not be on the title, but the space is part of your soul." What kind of soul needs an essential oil diffuser just to function? And Bree? After that infamous barbecue night, I never saw her again. But word is, she blocked Troy on every platform except LinkedIn. Maybe because some tiny part of her still hopes he'll land a real job someday. I didn't feel smug, but I did feel justice. Karma, even if she's late, always knows how to put on a good dress and show up right on time. And if anyone reading this is stuck in a thankless giving kind of relationship like I was, hear me out. Don't just love with your heart. Sometimes you need to love with legal ownership. I don't hate Troy. I just hate the version of myself I became with him. The one who kept rationalizing everything, convincing myself that if I just love him enough, he'll change. Spoiler, he won't. They never do. But you can. And you should. In the end, here's the lesson I learned. Love should never be on layaway. If it has to be paid for, at least get it in writing, and never let someone turn your tolerance into their entitlement. Apartments can be co-signed, but boundaries, self-respect, and the power bill, those better be in your name. And what about you? Have you ever handed someone the keys to your heart, only to be told to pack up and leave your own life? Share it with me in the comments. I'm listening, and who knows, the next drama I tell might just be yours. Our journey doesn't stop here, so support us with a subscribe. It means the world. Thank you so much.